I'm Jason UFC, and today we have a story about Ontario, Canada has banned betting on UFC events over integrity issues. Wow. The Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, Canada has banned all UFC betting. It has announced on Thursday, December 1st, 2021, the AGCO decided to ban the UFC from its sports books, from all of its sports books, due to integrity concerns. The AGCO oversees the regulated gaming industry in Ontario, Canada, requires sports governing bodies to enforce codes of conduct that include pro- prohibitions on betting by insiders and to have significant integrity safeguards in place to mitigate the risks of match fixing. Wow, this is crazy. Um, According to a statement, the AGCO, the UFC does not prohibit all insiders from betting on UFC events, which could include an athlete's coach, managers, handlers, athletic trainers, medical professionals, or any or other persons with access to non-public information. Along with that, the AGCO said in recent weeks they've learned of publicized alleged incidents, including possible betting by insiders, as well as reports of suspicious betting patterns in other jurisdictions. Wow, should we? Is there anything else? You know what? I think we probably should just end right there. Okay, let me see. The standards exist to protect the betting public and to provide the necessary safeguards against odds manipulation, match fixing, and other integrity issues. This is not a decision we take lightly, is what the CEO of AGCO said. Knowing the popularity of UFC events on Ontario sportsbooks in Canada, however, the risk of insider betting on events and wagering integrity should be highly concerning to all. It certainly is to us. We will continue to work with gaming operators, the OLG, iGaming Ontario, and the UFC to ensure that wagering on UFC events meets the AGCO standards. Wow, I don't. Wow, that is interesting. Now, I can't say I know too much about Canada, so I can't relate it to if it was like if Kentucky decided, that they didn't want to allow betting on UFC events. But we'll see if this spreads. This is, it's in Canada, very close to home for the UFC, but I don't believe this is anywhere else in the world. They may be the first one to do this in Ontario, Canada. The UFC did recently offer advice, and they did send out like a promotion to all fighters. And I don't know if it was sent to the media, but somehow the media got their hands on it, that nobody is allowed to bet on any fights. They did include managers, athletes, coaches. I don't know if they said anything about medical professions, anything, but they did basically say anyone in a gym, any athletes and stuff like that, managers, obviously coaches, were not allowed to bet on any UFC fight, whether it's your fighter or another fighter. So recently, the UFC did try to jump in front of this issue, but it seems like they did not do enough for Ontario, and now Ontario, Canada, is now banned all UFC betting at their sports books. Wow. This story is definitely going to pick up more traction over the next few days. Or what can happen here also, this isn't the end of the world. It could, this isn't all of Canada from what I understand, right? It's just Ontario, Canada. It would definitely would have been a huge deal if all of Canada said we're not taking any UFC bets at all. That would be a real big problem for the UFC. This does seem like kind of a way just for the UFC to work with the gaming regulators in Canada. I don't think this is the end of the world, like they said in the story that let me see what it says. This is not a decision we take lightly, knowing the popularity of UFC events in Ontario sportsbooks, right? So the year's over. Not too many big events, but I would be shocked if all of 2023, with all of the big fighters coming back in the UFC, that Ontario would still not take bets on the UFC, and they did not fix this issue. Like I said a few weeks ago, the UFC did try to jump in front of this issue by basically banning all of their fighters from betting on uh, any UFC fights, whether it's their fight or someone else's fight. So I think this is just, I think this could be easily ironed out, and I don't think this is going to be a long-term thing. But if it is a long-term thing, this could be, the first of many, commissions that ban the UFC. I would really doubt this reaches America's borders. That would obviously be the ultimate concern. But we'll see. I don't know. There was one fight where there was some betting odds that moved right before the fight that could be a real big problem. But I don't know if this is like that big of a deal. It's like literally all of the UFC fights have been like some kind of crazy cryptocurrency insider betting type of, that would be the string that would really be a problem. But we'll see. Like I said, this is not good news for the UFC. Obviously, this is not good news at all. This story isn't the biggest story in the world right now, but it will pick up traction. It will pick up traction, and people will start asking some questions and start looking at some lines and saying, okay, what's going on here? But like I said, this could also just be a way for the UFC just to go to the Ontario Commission and say, hey, we've implemented all of these safeguards, and we've banned all of our fighters and coaches and managers and anyone that has to do anything with any non-public information from betting on any UFC fights, and we should be able to work out a deal where Ontario could put the UFC sports bets back on their sports books. But we'll see. I don't know how soon this is gonna start. Like I said, we're in December of 2022, so I don't know if this is starting immediately. I would imagine this would probably start pretty close to immediately, but we'll see if this is going to be fully implemented, and if at next year at this time is Ontario the only province in the world that has banned UFC betting, or is this the first? That by next year we'll have like 20 provinces and all of certain countries not allowing UFC bets. I hope that's not the case, but we'll see. Like I said, I personally think this is basically a way for Ontario, Canada, and the UFC just to work this out. I don't think this is going to be something that builds up much steam and spreads to other provinces, other states, other countries. I think they could very easily work this situation out. But Ontario, Canada has sent the first shot and let the UFC know, like, listen, if there's any integrity issues, we're not going to take your bets. We're not going to take your bets. But like I said, I think this is something that could be worked out very easily by the UFC and Ontario, Canada. And we'll see how soon is the bets on UFC off of the sports books in Canada, in Ontario, Canada, and we'll see how soon can they get back on the sports book, or will Ontario, Canada not allow any UFC betting through the entire 2023. Wow. I'm Jason, UFC. Today we have basically not a good story at all for UFC fans, for MMA fans, for sports betting fans, for integrity fans. Ontario, Canada bans all UFC bettings and all of their sports books over integrity issues. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.